Hello everyone, welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And an interesting report that came out yesterday in a report talking about the fact that when the Springboks take on England at Twickenham on the 26th of November of this year, they will be fielding a side of only locally based Springboks. And as a result, it should be quite interesting to sort of see if this is true. Potentially, the way that the Springboks squad throughout the year could be composed could actually be impacted by this test. And it's quite sad if it were to be true in terms of what has become such a big rivalry in recent years between South Africa and England. It will be a bit, frustrating, I suppose, if we weren't be able to field our strongest side for England at the end of the year. But before we sort of get stuck into this report and what it can mean for the rest of the year, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Now, yesterday an article came out and it was by a report saying that because the test against England on the 26th of November is outside the World Rugby official test window, it looks like the overseas-based Springboks will be unavailable for this weekend. Now, that's because, in theory, these clubs are under no obligation to release players for any tests that fall outside the test window calendar. And can only do so by, on a club-to-club basis, whether if that club itself says, we will allow you guys to keep that player for an extra week or whatever to play that game, and then you can come back to us. But contractually, they have no obligation to release these players and can recall them. And as a result, we could be taking on England without any of the overseas box, which include the likes of Dwayne Vermeulen, Malcolm Marx, Trevor Nyakane, Andre Pollard, Cheslin Colmy, Damien Day-Lendy, Billy LaRue, Alton Yankees, Kwagga Smith, Malcolm Van Staden, the Dupree brothers, Jasper Wiese, Rand Ulstad, Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, PJ Toy, Lua Diaga, Vincent Koch. Those players could all potentially be unavailable for that test at Twickenham. Now, in theory, for a one-off test, you're thinking that's all right. However, the report also then mentions that apparently they have found they've earmarked or sort of at this stage, looked at 3 potential tests in the lead up to this to try and prepare a team of South African-based players. And I think this gets a little bit dangerous because we only play usually about 12 tests a year. We usually get 3 tests in the mid-year series, which is at this stage against Wales. And then you get the 6 tests of the Rugby Championship, and then you get 3 tests at the end of the year tour. So we're talking about 12 tests 2022, and then we are into World Cup year in 2023. We will probably play about 6 tests, maybe 7 tests in the lead up to the World Cup. So we're looking at less than 20 tests until the World Cup starts. I don't see us playing more than 20, for example. And whilst 3 out of 20 doesn't sound like a lot, it would effectively be 4 out of 20. And can we sacrifice 4 tests in a 12-test calendar to go with local-based Springboks on a technicality for what's going to happen in England? Now, I personally think that we need to be... I'm all for preparing for 2023 and giving more players a chance and build squad depth. I've got no issue with that. But if we are going to specifically leave out overseas players just purely on the basis of, we're not going to have them for Twickenham, so let's try somebody else, I think that gets a little bit dangerous. Because, for example, there could be other young players who are overseas based that should be getting opportunities, like a Tyrone Green, for example, who is tearing it up overseas. There are a couple of players, who I think that could be knocking on the door for South Africa who are overseas based and need opportunities before the World Cup if they are to be part of the mix. So if you were thinking about which sort of test would you look at it, you probably think that we are playing Italy this year, so that would probably be one. Potentially one of the tests against Wales, maybe the test in South Africa against Argentina, which has often been the one that we sometimes rotate against. So those would be the 3 obvious tests which you would do. But I think it gets a bit dangerous. Now, obviously, we still have a large amount of players within the country. We've got a front row in the likes of Stephen Kitsoff, Bongi Manambi, Francois Herber, Thomas Toy here, Steve Khaleesi's here, Lakanya Amsi, Makazol Mapimpi's here, Herschel Yankees, Warwick Galant, Apelele Fassi, France Steyn is obviously still locally based, Damien Willemse, and then you've got a whole bunch of youngsters which we still want to see. In my 5 players, I'd like to see get a debut. Evan Ruiz, Albert Lowe's up there, Salman Murat's obviously been in the squad, Vincent Tuka, if he can get a passport, should be up there. Jordan Andrews is playing very well at domestic level. A lot of people talking about Butcher Chamberlain, for example. Spilling Course is obviously still here. So you obviously still can field a very strong side against England, but I worry that we going locally based does not necessarily mean that you're going to give all the youngsters an opportunity, because there are obviously these youngsters, and Tyron Green is the one that sort of springs to mind immediately. But obviously there are some other players who could be moving over at any time. And if you're looking at players who want to play more rugby to try and see the international level, something like Marco Verstappen needs more time in a Springbok jersey. If you're going to back the two to pre-brothers, they need more time in a Springbok jersey. I think that even something like a Jasper Wiese, if you're going to back him, he needs more time in a Springbok jersey. Now, Dwayne Flumin is the incumbent number 8. Now, if you were to have 3 games where you're going to say, right, we're not going to pick Dwayne, if Jasper Wiese is a genuine contender, why aren't we playing him? Obviously, I think Evan Lewis or an Albert Lowe could do the same job. But it all comes down to what the Springboks staff want to take to the World Cup. And wherever your sort of 35, 40 players you want on your Springbok radar, those 35, 40 players have to play all the tests this year, from that selection. I don't think that, we can be giving our token gestures to players who are not going to be involved in 2023. I think that we've got an SAA series for that exact reason. At this stage, we are playing against the French Barbarians in June, July, and that's when I'd like to see any player who you think probably won't be 2023, but either could be a good one for reserve, or else one very much for the future, get those players playing for the SAA. Because that's what the purpose of the SAA is. But so I don't know. I mean, obviously it's always nice to see youngsters, but you don't want to see youngsters for the sake of youngsters. You want to see youngsters there with a plan. Youngsters that have a future, that have a role to play in what is the biggest challenge at the time. And the biggest challenge this year is to win the Rugby Championship, and to win the home series against Wales, and then obviously to have a good end of year tour. The purpose next year is to win the World Cup, and this year needs to be used as a big stepping stone towards trying to challenge for the World Cup. Because if you go back-to-back World Cups, you sit there, look at the Springbok side, and say that this is arguably one of the best Springbok sides, if not the best Springbok side of all time. It'll be the first Springbok side to have been able to have gone back-to-back World Cups. So that, for me, should be the focus. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. As always, thank you very much for watching. I'll chat to you soon.